Welcome back to the SimTech podcast, the show where we explore the people, the products, and the possibilities driving the world of clinical simulation. I'm your host, Craig, and today we're turning our focus to a big date in the simulation calendar, the upcoming SimTech North conference. In this episode, I'm joined by Dan as we look ahead to what's shaping up to be an exciting and inspiring event. We'll be sharing what we know so far, what we're hoping to see, and what kind of conversations we expect to have at the conference. Whether you're attending yourself or just curious about what goes on at the Simulation Tech Conference, this episode is your behind the scenes preview. So, let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the SimTech podcast. Today we were going to be talking all about SimTech North, and to help me to do that, I brought along a very special guest. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm a SimTech based at Teesside University.
And how long have you been doing a SimTech job over at the uni?
I've been doing the SimTech job, specifically at the university, for about a year and a half now. Before that, I did about a year and a half, 2 years at South Tees Trust, which is like our local trust.
And how long have you been doing it in general?
I think it's coming up about 4 years. My background's like audio visual, so that's kind of like how I got into it. It was sort of, I guess, more of like a bit more late. Some people, get into it a bit younger, but I was kind of like sort of late 20s, and I was like, oh, what's this sim thing about? Because obviously, my background is nothing to do with medical originally. Quite a lot of people are like that, and you sort of fall into it.
Yeah, I generally find that there's maybe two categories. There's the techs and there's the medical techs, if that makes sense. And that's what I am.
Yeah.
So I'm one of I'll probably call myself the minority, because I think techs are more of the majority, and then you get these clinicians that have just had enough of clinical work and they're coming over to the side of the
Yeah.
techs. And although I still struggle with calling the right cable the correct name, but
That's fine.
yeah, the one that always gets me is the HDMI cable that's not a HDMI cable because it's got the corner cut off.
Oh,
You know,
display port.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, but see that one catches me out all the time.
I know, but I mean, it's for me. I'm like, oh yeah, that, like, that
Yeah,
mask that's like a non-rebreathe, but it's something different. It's like,
yeah,
it's one of them weird
and
things.
that's the
Yeah.
thing, isn't there? There's pros and cons to both sides of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like audio and visual was probably my bugbear to start with because it was the hardest
Mm.
thing for me to learn. Audio definitely. Trying to because our sim center has a soundboard and we have
Yes.
lavalier microphones. So when I came in from a clinical background and I looked at that, it just filled me with dread, not knowing what
Yeah.
because there's 100 dials on there, and
Yeah, but
today,
look at you now.
yeah,
Look at you
well,
now.
that's exactly it. But the thing is because you think, oh my god, there's at least 6 dials to each channel, but you don't
Yeah.
really use any of
No,
the
once you've sort
dials,
of
do you?
set the levels, it's very rare unless
Yeah.
someone gets really excited that you ever adjusted it,
You don't know
on the
that to
fly.
start with, do you? You
No,
look at them and you're like, "Oh my god, what does that do?"
what do y'all do?
Yeah.
No, I know what you mean. I think when I first started sort of having to, like, okay, so I'm by myself here. I didn't have, like, a clinician with me, and I was like, and even though I was like confident enough, like, I can do this, I'm thinking, oh my god, what happens if I, like,
Mm.
just, I do react completely wrong on the observations and it
Yeah.
throws them way off
Well,
or
what
whatever.
what bothers me is because there's so many for our audio, I think I counted like 25 different sources of volumes from
Mm,
different speakers to different monitors and boards, and it just takes one person to, "Oh, I can't hear something," and they change the volume. For instance, a volume on a laptop, they just right click it and then change it a little bit,
yeah,
and then the whole balance is gone, and that's what really worries me sometimes is that you're just one click away from a
from just
disaster. Yeah.
yeah, and you don't know what's happened
No,
either.
and
You
then
have
you've
to you
got
have
to
to troubleshoot
troubleshoot
everything. Yeah, and
while the
it's
people waiting because they can't hear, the
yep,
scenario's still
yeah,
rolling. Yeah, and I think the last incident we had was in the debrief room. The clinician had put the debrief notes on the laptop, and somehow the volume had gone down on the laptop, and obviously they couldn't hear in the debrief room.
yeah,
So then it's like, why can't they hear in the debrief room, but we can hear in here? And then you just got to kind of think on your feet, haven't you?
yeah.
What
That's
one of
the
them?
hardest thing is just trying to figure out, like, okay, well, X, Y, and Z is working, but then this isn't. So like, and you sort of have to. It's the speed you've got to do it.
Yeah. While people are
Yeah,
watching, no
yeah,
pressure.
yeah. You're just thinking, don't look at me.
Yeah, in the middle of summer with no air
Yeah,
conditioning, the sweat's going down your back. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What did you do before then? What did you do before being a sim tech?
I worked. Well, I worked at the hospital doing like all. It's sort of like creating videos essentially for our like the hospital's. At the time it was called Strive, and it was kind of like their like education center for the medical students, and I would do a mixture of like sort of filming stuff for them for like educational purposes,
Mhm.
whether that was like kind of in the main hospital or like some sort of I guess like material with some consultants that they wanted to be able to disseminate a bit more readily, and also just sort of general audio visual like sort of troubleshooting across like the building because we had like multiple different meeting rooms and doing like sort of live streams and all that type of stuff, and it's just making sure everything sort of ran smoothly in the building.
Yeah.
And then before that, obviously, it was like kind of this was like kind of COVID time, and I just finished sort of doing my masters, and I was doing a little bit of part-time lecturing, ironically at Teesside University, but like where I am now. But it was mainly in audio visual, so it was like media production, sort of kind of like what I originally studied in, um, alongside doing sort of a bit of freelance sort of photography, video work. But
It sounds like all the things that I love best about the job actually is the stuff that you're involved with. I like the what I call the tell side. So,
yeah. Mm,
not the it's not really the sim stuff, it's all the stuff that, works with education, creating videos, that kind of stuff, and podcasts, or just the things that you get to do in your free time.
yeah,
Alright,
yeah,
so, you find yourself in a peculiar situation where you're creating this now, what we call SimTech North.
yeah.
Um, what kinda made you do such a crazy idea?
I don't even know because it's funny. I'm like the most erratic, unorganized person, and I'm thinking, how have I got myself into this? But because I'm a SimTech champion, like ASPI champion, and I'm kind of not heavily involved in like sort of the Northeast simulation like network, but I know like Niall and Kate quite well, and I think Niall just approached us one day and was like, we were trying to look at hosting the another event. I think it might have even been like something to do with the becoming simulation faculty.
Yeah,
But then, we were talking, and then we were like thinking, oh, okay, well, we're actually looking at like kind of hosting a specific tech conference, and then we were like, oh, well, we can do that. Like me and my manager Dave, unfortunately, couldn't be here today. Um, and I think it was one of these things where when I agree to stuff, I just say yes to stuff,
bit
and
of a
then
yes
next
man.
minute, yeah, like, and then I might end up in a meeting or like a Teams call. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just like, I'm here,
I think
and it
it's a
just
really good way of looking at things, because,
yeah,
if you've ever seen the Yes Man, the film, it opens up so many doors, doesn't it, when you say
yeah.
and opportunities.
That's the thing, and I think because better for or worse, it's like I'll just agree to most things. I'm just like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah,
And
and
then it's like, and
you're
then we're
right.
planning this. Yeah,
It's a really good way because, not only are you helping people if you're capable of doing it, but it's also a really strong networking tool, isn't it? Yeah, you meet people and you never know when you're gonna need a favor back.
yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's you get to meet people and network, and I think sometimes it's just like you come across opportunities that you wouldn't normally come across. So
Yeah. Okay, so you've come up with this idea. You want to host a SimTech up in the north because
mhm,
there's various SimTech conferences going on this year. Isn't there?
yeah,
I know there's a SimTech South
yeah,
going on.
yeah, yeah.
Are you talking to those on your planning?
Yeah, so it's kind of like because obviously they've been doing it for a few years now. I think. I know Russell, who's from down that way. I think he's supposedly meant to be he signed up to come up to ours. Just because obviously, even though it's called SimTech North, it isn't solely for people in the north. It's kind of we just sort of named it that just so obviously it sort of because it primarily I assume going forward will be in sort of the north. Um, but it's just sort of we're looking at other people and see what they're doing because you've got a couple coming up, whether that's at the Simmons Skills event, and then also obviously you've got the South Sim Tech Day, I think, yeah. And it's just sort of thinking, oh well, that's quite a good idea. I think I might take that. It's sort of just feeling it out really.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have something up north because I do find myself travelling quite far for some of the conferences. I know that ASPI this year is down very, very down south.
Yes, yeah, I think it's. I looked and it's like 7 hours on the train or something
Yeah,
crazy like that.
it's rough.
But yeah,
So
like what you've said, it's most of the things are sort of a lot more south than us. Um, I know like sort of the northwest. I know they're like their sim network isn't. I think it's got not the strongest at the moment. So we're trying to like sort of encourage sort of like them to come over as well. Because we're quite fortunate where our simulation network in the northeast is quite strong, and it's sort of just sort of people are a lot more involved and they're more willing to give up some free time and stuff, and just making sure that like if you can't get to like the Midlands or you know the, the South London wherever, because a lot of us we've got to go down to London and then like then go out of London to get to some of these places. And if they're working at a trust, especially even at a university at the moment, money isn't as money's a bit more tight than it used to be, so it's just trying to, oh well, actually it's only like an hour, it's not, it's a bit different, it's a bit more digestible, I think, from like a manager point of view.
so sorry, my mic keeps cutting out there. With all the events that are going on, how do you
Mhm.
make sure that you're not, recreating something that's kind of already been done? What's making SimTech North be different from the other events that are going on?
Yeah, and to a certain extent, obviously, I think more unique, the uniqueness is sort of like trying to have a bit of like not focus on pedagogy, but it's kind of the underpinning where like a lot of stuff we do, whether that's from like an audio visual point of view or specifically, using like high fidelity sim, you know, I think we forget sometimes like tech's cool and stuff, but actually there's a reason why we're doing it. And I think it's just trying to sort of like underpinning sort of like that type of stuff, like where it's just sort of, okay, well, this is why we're doing it. Um, and even like from a point of view, obviously, I don't mind necessarily like if we might do something similar to say another event. We don't necessarily mind that because I know a lot of people who are from like here coming to our one might haven't had the opportunity to go further afield. So I think it's more about sort of giving the accessibility and networking and sharing all that information to like sort of like more of like the north region, just so it's sort of just a bit more accessible, really.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh, I think you might have cut out. Yeah.
how are you coming up with your agenda then? Are you reaching out to Simtex to see what they want on the agenda, or are you just kind of going with your gut feeling, a feel what people would like?
Primarily, we sort of kind of put out like a feeler where we sort of. Oh, sorry, my colleague has just come in. Hello. A little bit, yeah. Sorry. Sorry, Mark. I'll start again.
So how are you making sure that on the agenda you're getting what Simtex would like rather than what you feel they would deserve?
So originally, before we even sort of even came up with the name of the event, we kind of put feelers out there, and it was just very, a very brief survey to see like, kind of what type of stuff people are interested in. I even spoke to like Chris Gay, and I think I spoke to him about sort of looking back at sort of like what people said at ASPI, and just sort of like figuring out, even from a level of sometimes it might not be the most exciting stuff, but what would benefit technicians the most. So we're trying to look at, kind of even from a career progression. I know it's quite a boring thing. Obviously, I know it's important, but I think it's not the most, exciting of topics. But it's just sort of, looking at them type of things where like potentially how, because we haven't necessarily got a specific structure of moving up, like some disciplines might and some other professionals, is sort of like just tying that in, just so
Yeah.
people know, what options are available to them.
What kind of format is your day taking? Because most of are you going to have several different workshops where people can come in and they can pick what they want, or is it just going to be kind of linear?
So it's a mix, really. We've kind of like a bit linear to start, and then we've kind of got two main workshops slots, I guess, where there's going to be like a choice of three. Um, they're kind of getting finalized right about now, but we're trying to keep them, different enough where they're not too much overlap, where people might be annoyed they can't go to both
Yeah, I
at
do
the
get
same
I do
time.
suffer from FOMO sometimes, especially when
Yeah,
you go to ASPI and there's several things on that you
exactly.
expect to
Yeah.
go to.
So we're just trying to keep it like like a mix. But obviously, I'm aware that potentially some people might might be able to might want to go to both. But we're also trying to make sure like there's a lot of like sort of networking opportunities throughout the day. So it's kind of like, all right, now I've got an extended break because you go get your teas, your coffees, or whatever. But then also like if they want to go chat to people, because then people who have done the workshop should be around for most of the day as well. They can approach them and speak to them, I guess, more like a one-to-one, like direct level. So if there's anything specific they wanted to ask or get shown, hopefully it can be accessible that way too.
Can you share anything that's actually on the timetable yet, or is it a little bit still up in the air?
It's still a bit up in the air. I know we're meant to be having sort of a I've been talking to Tom Hayes and Elliot up at Newcastle, and we're looking at sort of doing a sort of dissect the mannequin style, sort of like and we're going to have like sort of a breakdown of like I think I assume Simman from Lairdale, and sort of like break that down from and like one that they take apart regularly and put back together, just so that way it's like, well, actually, if you've only got one, say if some trust might only have one sim man they have access to, they don't necessarily want to take that apart because if they put it
Mm.
back together and it's not working, so it's kind of like that's quite an exciting opportunity to see like what it would look like took apart and put back together.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes
And
it's easy to forget that these are,
yeah,
price of a small house.
that's what I mean. And so it's like that. I think that'd be quite exciting. It's sort of like it's like dissection, but but it's a
Yeah,
mannequin this time. But that's like one thing I know we're pretty sure we might have. I think we're gonna have some like sort of moulagey stuff. Um, we're gonna have some stuff I think based around probably Adam Gel, just because obviously I know that was at obviously Aspie,
yeah,
but not a lot of people might have said necessarily went to Up, so it's kind of like more
yeah.
like
It's
the
always
local
very well
area.
received actually when people see it. It's
Yeah,
almost like a little bit of a game changer. I know we from Aspie, we started using it straight away because you can see the how it just fits in really well
and the
with.
benefits and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we're kind of looking at sort of that. I think there's a few more, but I can't necessarily. I don't think that anything's necessarily locked down yet. So it's something I think I don't want to be like, oh, this might happen, and then
yeah.
people are like,
What
oh,
about
but yeah.
keynote speakers? You got any keynotes lined up?
Um, we're looking at. I think Chris is meant to be speaking, Chris Gay, and then we're also, if I remember, we've got so there's I think it's called the ITSS, but I can't remember what the acronym stands. But essentially, it's like a technician sort of um a group, sort of like putting technicians first, and I think we might be having someone come from that. And I can't remember his name, but it's kind of like sort of a network of technicians to support technicians, essentially. Sort of, so it's kind of like a lot like mix of like science and health technicians.
Yeah. We keep saying technicians a lot. Is this a SimTech event? Is this only open to techs?
It's not only open to techs, however, techs have priority. So
Yeah,
let's say if we fill up and there's no spaces left after all the technician interest is,
yeah,
unfortunately no one else will be able to come. But so it's primarily tech focused, as in technician focused. But let's say if we've got X amount of slots available and some clinicians or whatever want to come because they're a bit more their tech literacy is they're interested in that type of stuff, that's fine. It's more like if you're involved directly with the tech, I suppose. But yeah.
yeah. Like you said, just because you don't have the SimTech tag, don't mean
Mhm.
you're not involved in that kind of world. What's you spoke about max capacity? How many people can we have?
We're looking at about 40 at the moment.
Yeah.
Um,
How many we got so
which
far?
I think we have about 20 or 30. It's kind of feeling it out. Because Generate are meant to be sponsoring the event, so hopefully we should be having like free food and coffee and stuff throughout the day.
Hmm.
So we've kind of give them a ballpark figure, roughly I think about 40, 50. And also just sort of we don't want the workshops to be like over capacity, and if there's too many people in each one, they might not be get the experience that like we want them to get, really, because we want it to be a bit more hands on
Yeah,
than just sort of a lecture. Then if there's like 20 in one of them, it just it just doesn't work.
yeah.
But yeah,
You're right there. But sometimes you feel like more numbers is better because it almost represents success, doesn't it?
yes,
Unfortunately, you think, yeah, I've got loads of people, success. Where actually sometimes it can be damaging.
yeah, and it's that thing where we're not necessarily you know I don't know, precious about the numbers. It's the first time we're doing it. It's something like we just sort of. I think if it was 6 months ago, I don't think we were necessarily even planning on doing it. So it is quite a quick turnaround, and I think it's just sort of a proof of concept. And and it's that thing where it's like I don't mind if it was like 20 people, 40 people, as long as like they have a good day and they get the network opportunities and they're being able to share, and even just it's a day out of the office. Like the way I look at it, it's like a bit. It's just sort of like a day out of the office. It's like okay, you're still work adjacent, but also you're having a bit of a laugh. You're meeting nice people. You're learning some stuff as you go along. That's kind of the vibe. I want it to just be more like I guess like laid back and relaxed, and just sort of yeah, it's free food, great.
Yeah.
Like oh, I get a free lunch. Everyone likes a free lunch kind of thing.
And I think it's a really nice way to think about, what does success look like for the
Mm,
for the event. And you're right. Sometimes, it's almost awkward saying it, but sometimes people like this for a day out. Almost like a reward. Come to a conference,
yeah,
have a good time, meet some nice people, eat some nice food, and learn something as a little bit of a byproduct
yeah.
from that kind of thing. And then, you almost feel guilty saying it, don't you? But sometimes, that's all right.
Yeah, like it does. It feels like it. It's one of the things you shouldn't necessarily say, but I'm like, well, no, I think it's a really important part of the job.
Yeah,
On a fundamental level, and I think technicians, especially, like I'm quite confident, forward facing, and I kind of get a lot of times I'm up in front of you know the classes and stuff like that. But some technicians, they might just be like they're sort of in the background. So it's kind of like, well, actually, no, the focus is on like this day is on you as a technician. Like, you can like, have these conversations because you might only be one of the only technicians in your trust or your institute wherever you work in, and you might not be able to have discussed these ideas or decisions unless it's like on the WhatsApp group. And this is
yeah.
like, well, actually, it's you can bounce ideas about like, oh, what do you do and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's where the value is for me. Is you meet a lot of people who are going through almost the same journey as
Yeah.
you're going through, and if they're having that problem, you've probably had that problem before, and some of the people that have gone to the conference probably don't even know about the WhatsApp group. So
No,
how
and
are they ever going to learn stuff like that?
yeah, there's I've got a because that's like one of the other workshops I just remember is locked in. He's sort of it's based on VR, and he's also called Craig, but he's not a sim tech by background. He's like a digital enhanced learning specialist.
Mm,
And it's that thing where it's like he's going to be doing sort of VR stuff, but he knows nothing about like the sim tech world, despite doing VR in like a medical
yeah,
field. It's quite interesting, but yeah.
yeah. Well, and, he's going to have his eyes opened up, I
Oh,
suspect.
that's what I mean. That's what I said. I was like, he visited a couple of months ago, and I was like, "Do you know about this?" And he was like, "No." And I was like, because I was confused why I'd never met him, and I only came across the Craig wasn't because his manager, like the clinician, she came down to look at our facilities, and I did like a tour, like of like our immersive wall and stuff. And then she was like, "Oh, you should get in contact with my colleague." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." But
Yeah.
if it wasn't because of that, I wouldn't have known.
No, this rabbit hole goes deep, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Once you're in there. Do you think this event's going to be a reoccurring thing? Do you think you're going to do it again, or somebody else might take up the mantle?
I, I think it will be a reoccurring thing. I don't necessarily know if we'll host it again. Necessarily, it's something where I think if the opportunity came up, I think we hopefully if it goes well. I can't see why we wouldn't, but we don't want to see it as like well, we're hosting it and it's ours. It's more of like it's something that moves around sort of the north and like sort of you've got northeast, you've got like sort of northwest, and also like York and Humber and stuff like that. And it's just making it as accessible to as many people as possible,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well, that's kind of what Aspie do as well, don't they? They don't keep
Yeah,
it to one location. They like people to move over.
they just do the extremes though. They go from
Yeah, they do.
Edinburgh to is it
You
Bournemouth?
think they
Is
do
that
it
where it is?
centrally, wouldn't you, rather than
Yeah.
on the outsides? Yeah. So, have you enjoyed doing it? Is it is it
Yeah, well, because
fun?
obviously my colleague Caroline, she is a senior sim tech here because she's been a godsend because she's the most organized person and she's like basically just been like doing most of it for me. I've been sort of like I'm like the mouthpiece is what I say. Like I'm like I'll go speak to people, I'll ring people up, I'm like I try to reach out, blah blah blah. But like when it comes to actually sorting like the timetable out and sort of the day to day and getting all the events and flyers out, she's the been amazing.
Doing the work
So
behind the
I've
scenes. You're getting all the glory. Is that
yeah, I feel really bad, but she's very like, she doesn't she's not the type of person where she doesn't like doing them type of things.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, and I don't, I'll chat to anyone. So it's quite nice. It's quite a good pairing because then she'll just tell Dan, you got to do this. I'm like, I'll do it. I'll
Yeah,
just
she's
I'll just
pulling all
tell
the
her. But
strings.
I've enjoyed doing that. If because very early on it was just me and my manager Dave, and we were just doing it, and I was like, I'm quite a chill back laid out guy, but when it was, I was like, Dave, this is stressing me out. Like, I can barely like organize mine. Like today, I was like, I think I sent a message to you, be like, is it at 10 o'clock again? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just the type of person I am, and it's I've got about 17 reminders for like one thing, but Caroline, she's just
Mm.
amazing. She's so
The
organized.
thing
So
that, you know what
when
I hated about doing stuff like this? It's having to, it's the things that you can't control, having to rely on
yeah,
people to turn up at the right time. And,
yeah. Even
I
like
really
now,
took that
yeah.
on, you know.
Like people have locked. I'm saying people have locked in, but yeah, I'm like, once they just don't turn up, and I'm like,
What if they're sick? Well, what's happening
yeah, I'm
when
just
they,
gonna have to go in there and just start dancing or
yeah.
something, like,
Because you might, because it's not just enough. People might have travelled a long way, and
yeah,
the last thing you want to do is you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to
that's
make
what I mean, But no matter
people feel
what,
that pressure.
they're gonna get a free lunch. So the free lunch and tea and coffee all
And a
day,
day off work. That what more can you want?
and a day off work, and we might even, we might even go to the pub afterwards if people want.
Yeah. Well, I think that's an important part in it is
That's what I mean. It's like it's that thing where I'm willing, not willing, I'm willing, but like no, like I think that's the kind of the vibe where it's like when it ends, it isn't just like, all right, that's it done. It's like if people want to, we want to pop to like the pub or whatever, or just go out for some more food afterwards, spend a bit of time in the local area. We're more than happy. I know there's a few like even from sort of like myself and even some of the suppliers I know who are coming up. What I'm quite friends with quite a lot of people, and I think our community is quite nice like that, where everyone sort of gets on with everyone. And if people are up for going for some food afterwards, that sounds good.
yeah, bring it on. Okay, so coming up to the end of the podcast there, Dan,
Yep.
we've got 20 to 30 people that are already locked in, as we say. You've got a
Mhm.
max capacity of probably about 40, so we don't have much room to wiggle. When is the event?
It is the 12th of September.
12th of September. So we're probably, I suspect you're on to fulfilling that, aren't you, really? If somebody wants to
Yeah.
apply or to, come to the conference, what's the best way to do it?
We're going to be putting out sort of like a official sign up with like an Eventbrite and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
If they want to email me in the meantime, um,
All right.
well, I mean,
So I'll
do I
put
just
your
say my email?
email on the
Yeah, cool.
description so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you can get hold
They
of
can
it.
just send me an email, and I'm more than happy to, just send them a direct link. Just
Yeah.
so that thing, I don't want to, I want to make sure like not disappoint people. It's that thing where it's like I don't want to just be like, yeah, find it, and if they can't find it quick enough, other people signed up.
What
And I
you
think there is a. Oops,
what
sorry, Karen.
what are you going to do if you get maybe 50, 60 people subscribed? Have you
Oh,
got
I don't know. So there's a bit of wiggle room there. There is a bit of wiggle room. I
yeah?
think we've been a bit more, I guess, cautious with the numbers.
Mm.
Um,
Are you going to
but
reject people saying
if it
sorry?
gets to that point, well, unfortunately, I think we'd have to,
Yeah.
just because obviously, like I said, that we want to make sure that each of these, like kind of workshop style experiences is that it is engaging. It is a bit more
Yeah.
hands on, and when you have that too many people, I don't want people just sort of just stood around,
Is there
and even just
is there no way of expanding the workshops, adding more workshops, or is it because of the venue as well?
it's more the venue. So it's more the capacity that we can hold. I think in sort of we're in our new BIOS building, it's called, and we're kind of trying to keep it centralized. So we know we're not trying to drag people all because we're quite a big like campus. We're all kind of like it's on campus everything, but we don't want to be dragging people all over the place. So I think it's more to do with capacity of what we can hold in the rooms essentially.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just before we sign off,
Mhm.
if you want to give the final word, and how would you convince somebody who is maybe sitting on the fence thinking about should I go? Should I go to the south? Should I go to limbs and thing? What all the other ones? How would
So
you convince them?
for me, I feel like it's we're just gonna have a nice chill time, bit of networking. It is gonna have some nice some nice workshops, get a bit of hands on, have a bit of a laugh. It is just a bit more laid back. I feel like that's what kind of the vibe I think it. that's kind of like what I want from it. And it's that thing where it's like, you get your free lunch. Like, what more could you want? I can tell. I'm like, yeah, free lunch.
Free
That's like
lunch.
that's
How hard
someone
did you
says
have to
to me,
fight for
free lunch, I'm there. You know.
that? Yeah. Well, thank you, Generate, for paying for the lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. Just keep telling them. Yeah. Cheers, Generate. Yeah.
All right, Dan. Well, thank you for coming on and speaking to us
No,
today.
thank you.
I hope you every success, and I know I'll almost certainly be there.
Cool. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to seeing you and seeing everyone else.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you. Bye bye.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Dan for joining me and sharing his thoughts on the SimTech North Conference. It's always great to reflect on the events that bring our community together. Until next time, keep simming, and we'll see you soon.